Hey guys, so this video won't be too long, but I was kind of like walking this morning and I was thinking to myself how, and I know this is a bit random to think when you're walking, but I don't really care, how a lot of young people nowadays don't really read books. They just sit on their phone and scroll endlessly through social media, ruining their attention span and just absorbing rubbish information that doesn't really serve them in life. And I'm not here to say that I don't go on social media and don't watch any of this crap. But what I am saying is that I time it in an effective way. So it's like when I'm tired, I'll go on social media because reading a book is probably not the appropriate time because I'm not really getting anything out of it because I'm kind of half asleep. So, yeah. Anyway, so 3 books I would recommend are How to Win Friends and Influence People, The 4-Hour Workweek, and The Art of War I'll talk about the authors a bit later. And you don't have to read a bunch of different books, you don't have to read hundreds and hundreds of books to build your intelligence and get all these life skills and stuff. Because you ultimately want to absorb deep amounts of information from fewer books. And you don't have to read a ton of books to build your intelligence. Honestly, if you read just maybe 50 books, but you understand them very well, that can serve you very well in life. But these 3 books that I will talk about soon are very powerful, and if you can understand them really well, that can serve you really well when you're young, and just throughout your whole life, to be honest. And I also saw a Joe Rogan podcast, and he had this guy called Naval Ravikant. I might be butchering his name, but he was talking about how it's better to understand 100 books really well than to understand 500 books very poor. And I was like listening to him, and he was talking about how he would sometimes read just 1 page in a day and just interpret the information of that 1 page throughout the day or night or whenever he's reading. And that would be all of his reading for the day. But he's digesting that information and just like making all his different interpretations and how he would use that principle or technique or whatever in his life. So that was quite fascinating. So, to sum it up, you don't have to read hundreds and hundreds of books. You can just read a couple, but understand them really well, and that will serve you quite well when you're young, and again, when you're older. So the first book is 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and this is probably my 3rd or 4th business book I've read, and I reckon this one is probably the best one. And basically, to sum it up, the book is about how to use your time more effectively and to limit the amount of distractions and to be more productive, and then just to spend the rest of the time that you would have spent on stuff that doesn't matter on things that you actually want to do and pursue a lifestyle that you actually want, and not just be this wage slave who hates his or her life. And one of the things in this book is like eliminating emails, because loads of people just spend endless time on emails, or using the 80-20 principle of getting 80% of the results from 20% of the effort, things like that. So this book is very good and highly recommend. Second book is Art of War by Niccolo Machiavelli, a very famous book, and it basically talks to you about how to gain true power and freedom through discipline, being prepared, and being self-reliant, and also to kind of be able to stand your ground, which is an incredibly important skill, because if you let people walk over you in your day-to-day life, no one's going to respect you, and you're just going to be this like target, and it's just not the place you really want to be. And like in business or in life in general, I've seen this myself. It's just not great at all. So this book really teaches you on how to embrace these traits of discipline, self-reliance, and not and standing your ground. Sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. And the third book I would recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is probably the first self-improvement / self-help book I ever read. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And to sum it up, this book is basically about how to build relationships with people, whether it's in business, life, you name it. A lot of gems inside of this book. A lot of things that I look back on. I'll probably reread this book again because I'm kind of starting to forget some of the stuff in this book because I haven't read it in a while. A very long time, actually. So, yeah, but basically talks about how to build relationships with people and how it's super important in your life, because if you don't know how to build relationships with people, you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot, because having relationships with certain people can get you higher status, more power, and you can have connections with certain people that can then get you monetary success as well, if that's what you want. So things like that. So these 3 books, if you can understand these 3 books very well, you're putting yourself in a very good position at a young age, or you're putting yourself in a very good position at a young age, because you're going to be so much ahead of everybody. And that's like kind of also the time you want to really lock in and really zoom past everybody, because a lot of people when they're younger, they kind of just mess around and don't really take life that seriously. And that's an opportunity which you can take in which you can really get ahead of everybody and set yourself up and set up all the foundation really well, and then not have to worry as much about the future. So I went on a bit of a tangent there, but these 3 books I highly recommend. You can literally if you had to just survive off these 3 books, like the only 3 books you could read are these 3, and you understand them off by heart, you're going to be very, very, put you in a very good position, I would say. That's what I would say. So yeah, let me know if you want me to maybe go in depth into these 3 books, or whether you want something else about reading. Yeah. Stay blessed.